What is going on, Swoopers? Welcome back to another episode of Swoop Luke. In this episode, we'll be doing installment 2 of 5 things we learned during the game. So let's run that intro, jump straight into it. Before we do jump straight into it, a couple of things I want to talk about. One, of course, follow me on Twitch. If you haven't seen it already, I'll chuck a card up in the corners here. I'm doing a Collingwood Cross Grimsby Town season, getting him from League 2 to the Premier League. I just released a trailer this morning, so please do check it out. Follow me on Instagram, Swoop Luke, TikTok, Swoop Luke, and I have the privilege of being on a good mate's YouTube channel / podcast, True Footy. I'll chuck a card up there as well. Go onto their channel, hit subscribe onto their channel. One of the best, if not the best, AFL YouTubers going around right now. Like I said, had the privilege to get interviewed by him, 45-minute chat. It was a lot of good fun, and definitely go check that out. Anyway, let's just jump into these 5 things we learned. I've put this down as we don't have a wet weather plan. I feel like this could be we don't have a real game plan at the moment. I know what you all gonna say. We're there, we got a good game plan when we're winning, but why do we not have a good game plan when we're losing? And I think that's the point that I'm trying to reiterate over these last few videos with no plan B and stuff like that. I think that we're a very good attacking side when we want to be, but the game plan now is just over handballing, which looks good when it comes off, and when you're generating a run, that looks good. But when we're kicking backwards, when we've already got the lead, or, you know, I get like when you're switching and stuff like that, but I think that backwards kicking shouldn't be a part of this defensive game plan that we have, especially when we're in the lead. You don't want to concede meterage back. You want to start putting teams to the sword, moving up the ground, and then, you know, attacking, getting more goals. There was a lot of backwards kicking, which doesn't help because, like I said in my previous video, the team that we're versing, so Essendon, just floods their defense, so our forward line, with all their players, and you can't get through, and it's just, you know, causes a turnover, and it causes them to counter-attack. But in saying that, we also don't have a wet weather plan. Before the game started, I said that we should drop Mason Cox, not because of form or anything, but because, 1, we don't play well in the weather, and 2, big men don't play well in the weather, especially, you know, them trying to clunk marks and stuff. I mentioned this more in my review video, but I think that when Cox is in the team, our game plan is to bomb along to him, trying to take the mark. He doesn't take the mark, comes to the ground, and then that's it. We lose Cox as a player because he's so tall that he can't get to the ground quick enough. What I proposed before the game was that Josh Thomas comes in, or some other speedy forward comes in, gives us a little bit more run, closer to the ground. That way, Mycheck stays as our, you know, centre half forward, or Geordie stays as our big full forward. And that way, when the ball does come down there, we're lowering our eyes, and when our eyes are lowered, if we spill a mark or something like that, we're already halfway to the ground, and we can get that ball, as opposed to Cox. If he doesn't mark the ball, he's effectively taken out of the game. Number 2. Geordie isn't a damaging midfielder. I know that sucks to hear, or, you know, it does hurt a little bit to say, but I feel like Geordie, he does, you know, he works best as a forward. That's just the crux of it. On the weekend against Essendon, he had 21 disposals, most of them coming from, you know, between the arcs, so between the forward 50 and the defensive 50, so through the centre. 2 clearances, 450 metres gained, and no goals. He played majority of the game in the midfield. This is a knock-on effect from not having Steele in the side. Before the game, Geordie and Sanderson both came out and said that he's got a bigger tank. He's going to be playing more midfield numbers to try and prove his worth up there. 2 clearances isn't going to help us win games, especially for Geordie. He is such a game breaker that I would prefer him to play 75% in the forward line, 25% in the midfield as a pinch hitting midfielder, like Dustin Martin. You know, he hasn't played all the game in the midfield. He's splits his time up between the midfield and the forward line, and I think that's what Geordie has to do, especially with our goals being dried up, which segues perfectly into number 3. I've put this one down as simply our forwards can't kick goals, and that's pretty much exactly what it is. Have this for a stat. Since the restart, we've played 4 games, obviously, and 4 times 4 is 20. So we've played 20 quarters. In 8 of those quarters, we've kicked 1 or less goals. So 1 or 0 goals. In 4 of those 20 quarters, we've kicked 0 goals. You don't win games by kicking 0 goals in, 2 quarters of football times by 2. So we kicked 0 goals in the 3rd and 4th quarter against Richmond, and then in the 2nd and 3rd quarter against Essendon. We drew 1, we lost 1. You don't win games by not kicking goals. But our forwards just seem to go missing. Jaden Stevenson, fast start, kicked 2 goals in the last 2 games in the 1st quarter. Did sweet FA after it. Against Essendon, he kicked 1 goal in the last quarter, kind of got our momentum up a little bit, but ultimately came through to nothing. Elliott has kicked 3 goals for the season. Buckley is playing Phillips as a half forward, which is just really stupid to me, because Phillips is our best runner in the team, besides maybe Rantel now. But he's a wingman through and through. He can run all day. They're putting Will Hoskin-Elliott on the wing when Will Hoskin-Elliott plays his best footy in the forward line. They're just trying to do something. They're trying to spice something up when it doesn't need spice. We're already a spicy team, so why are you trying to add more spice to it? It's just going to make things too hot, and you know what happens when it gets too hot? You drop the pan because it burns your hand, I think. Is that a saying? Probably not, but we're going to keep that in anyway. In saying that our offense is no good, our defense is still pretty fantastic. In our last 11 games, a team hasn't kicked more than 66 points. And that is just an incredible stat. In 3 of the 5 games this year, from rounds 1 to 3, no team has kicked more than 5 goals. Of course, the Giants, we let in 10 goals, and Essendon, we let in 10 goals. Teams aren't blowing us out of the water. We've still got that opportunity to come back into games. You've seen that against the Giants last week. You saw it against Essendon on Friday night. And we saw on Friday that not having Howe, it is obviously a detriment. Best defender in the league, intercept marker, good kick coming out of defence. And that's exactly what we lacked on Friday night, and you could tell that. But the inclusion of Scharenberg, who is known as a good kick, who is known as a good intercept mark, is only going to get better with more game time. He didn't set the world on fire on Friday, but he played his role well, and that's exactly what we need from him, especially with no Howe. Sure, the Varco halfback experiment didn't work, but our defense with Moore and with Shaz doing that intercept marking, I think worked really, really well. This is a pretty dumb thing to say, but Steele Sidebottom is a huge loss for us. And I know you gotta say, Luke, obviously Steele Sidebottom is a huge loss for us. He's one of our best players. And to that I say, yeah, I know, but just let me talk about why I think he's a huge loss for us and why we learnt that on Friday night, please. So, in the past 7 games against Essendon, Steele Sidebottom has polled 3 BOGs in them. So that's 3 Brownlow votes in 3 of the games. Essendon hate to play against him. He loves to play against Essendon. Silky player. Gathers possessions, 30 odd touches, kicks a goal, smart, good kicker of the ball, good user of the ball. Exactly what we lacked. Exactly what we lacked on Friday night. Without Steele playing in the midfield, but even though we had ads in there, even though we had Treloar at some points in there, Goey, we take our best forward, Goey, out, put him in the midfield, and he's playing there 90% of the game where he doesn't need to be. Everyone wants to be a midfielder, but, Goey is best placed in the forward line. I don't see why no one sees that. And yeah, okay, he wants to be a midfielder. If he wants to be a midfielder so bad, someone else is going to guarantee him midfield time. But I guarantee you that if he goes to a St Kilda, if he goes to a Kangaroos, they're going to play him in the forward line as well, because that's where he does his most damaging work, like I said. But I digress. Let's get back to Steele Sidebottom. I bet you Steele will be kicking himself for the next 3 or 4 weeks until he gets to play again. We do miss him out there. He is, like I said, he's just that finesse that we needed. Without one of your major gears, the cogs start coming off, and it kind of just throws us for a loop. You take Steele away, like I said, you put Geordie in, and then someone else has to get pushed out into the forward line, then you bring someone else into the forward line, then your forward line's a bit of shambles, you don't have that X factor in your forward line. But then you take Geordie out of your midfield, put him into your forward line. Who do you put into the midfield that's going to be as good as Steele and just as good as Geordie? We don't really have that X-Factor player that can bring that. Maybe Sire, but the only X-Factor player we have that can do that is still Sidebottom. So what he did was inexcusable, despite what Eddie Maguire and Buckley are saying. He's an idiot, we know that, but he'll come back stronger and, you know, hungrier and better when he does come back. I think we might be in Perth still against maybe Fremantle when he does come back. But look guys, that's the 5 things that I've learned from Friday night's game. Let me know your thoughts down below, because you know I love reading and listening to your thoughts. But in the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, double shackers, swoop you later.